Now, good morning, councillors. Just obviously like to point out today's attendance is slightly different to normal. The Deputy Mayor, Councillor Rogers, joins us electronically, and our record of that will be in our meeting, but also some very special guests joining us today to commence in, albeit February, but to commence our council year in regular fashion. I'd like to welcome Pastor Donna Mustard, who will lead us in prayer this morning, but also one of Council's newest trainees and employees, Caitlin Plum, representing the Central West Aboriginal Corporation, to lead us in an acknowledgement of our traditional owners this morning. If we could all please be upstanding councillors and staff for the prayer. Thank you.
So just before I pray, I just introduce myself. I'm just new to Barcaldine, and so I'm the pastor with the Central Western Queensland Uniting Church of Australia, which covers from Alpha, we go up to Winton, over to Blackwall, and you may be familiar with Reverend Jenny Coons. She's leaving at the end of March, and when Jenny leaves, I'll be slotting into Jenny's work as well. So it's good to be here this morning and pray for you and to pray you into your meeting. I'll leave the meeting, if that's okay, after the acknowledgement of country. So let's pray. Dear God, we thank you for these men and women who serve our community in leadership roles and for their families too. Thank you for their dedication and commitment to help make this Shire a good place to live, work and enjoy life. As they work together to find solutions to difficult problems, we ask that you guide them to speak respectfully and with humility to one another, to the staff of council and for the people in our region. We are so grateful that we have leaders that listen to us. God, please be with our councillors as they weigh up each issue and concern. Give them wisdom on how to proceed, knowing that all of the decisions made here today and throughout the rest of the year are going to affect the lives, land and property of the people of whom they serve in some way. And further, Father, we also ask that you give our leaders courage so that even when times are hard, they will continue to boldly represent their community's needs. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I'd like to ask staff and visitors and councillors to observe a minute silence, please, to mark the passing of the late Mr. Glenn Cameron of Mount Cornish, Muttaburra, Mr. Rooster Forster of Muttaburra, Mr. Mark Alexander Roberts of Aramac, and Mrs. Sally Perrott of Jericho. Are there any other condolences, councillors?
Ron Johnson.
Oh, most definitely. Whilst not a member of the Barcaldine Regional Council, certainly someone whose interests held dear to our heart and dear to his, the former member of the Legislative Assembly, Mr. Vaughan Johnson. Thank you. Thank you all. Okay. Welcome formally to the meeting and for the very important role that you're about to fulfil on behalf of the custodians. Thank you very much. Welcome.
Good morning, Mayor, councillors and staff. My name is Caitlin Plum and I'm a proud Bidgera woman and a descendant of the Thompson and Fraser families. In the spirit of reconciliation, I would like to acknowledge that this meeting is being held on traditional lands of the Inangai people. The Inangai people walked and lived on this land long before us, respected it, listened to it, and cared for it. Now it is up to us to continue to care and share this land together. I pay my respects to the Indigenous and non-Indigenous elders, past, present and emerging, as well as you all here today attending this month's council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I too would like to, on behalf of Council, pay my respects in the spirit of reconciliation, but generally for the traditional owners and custodians of this land and all of their efforts and continued efforts in ensuring that those traditions and understandings of the land are not lost. So, thank you. Thank you all. There are no apologies, although once again I recommit that Councillor Rogers, whilst not in the room, is formally part of this meeting, joining us electronically, and her presence is noted, and her signature will join the attendance book on her return to the chamber. Councillors, if I just may ask before we move to any anticipation of potential prescribed conflicts of interest, we've got a unique scenario today where the Deputy Mayor is not in the room. Should I, for some reason, either a conflict of interest or other reason, be required to be absent from the chamber for a period longer than we need adjourn for, which would be my preference if I was called away urgently, we adjourn simply because the Deputy Mayor's not here. Deputy Mayor, would you, I think we could do two things. You could attempt to chair the meeting from there, or you could request one of your fellow councillors to just lead the meeting in my absence if that is required. What would be your preference, given it's probably your prerogative to choose?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I think it might be better if you delegate that to someone else, just because from my angle, I can't actually see who's speaking. Like I can hear everyone clearly, but I can only see people from a distance, so it's a little bit hard for me to I'm not sure. I'm happy to do it, but it might be easier for someone else to do it. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
All right, well, Councillor, should the need arise, we don't need to delegate that now, should the need arise where I'm called out from one of you, please. You're happy to do that, Councillor Plum? Thank you. All right, I now call for declarations of prescribed conflict of interest. Councillor Rogers.
So I've got just last month I declared a prescribed conflict of interest in the Muttaburra Recycle Festival, and I left the room. So this month the festival is mentioned in, actually it's also, I forgot about, I didn't read Shane's report, like I didn't see it in the report until this morning, so it's not in the email, but it's in the Mayor's report, it's in Shane's report, and it's in Paula's report. But because they're only reports, so I'd like to stay in the room, but I just need to take advice on that from you.
I'm personally
should I leave the room or, yeah?
There's no decision, and you're quite correct. The last meeting you had declared that because there was a decision requested of council regarding its support for the festival.
Yeah.
The information today will genuinely be information following the CEO and my meeting with the CWA in Muttaburra. I would see no connection really that would require you to leave the room in this instance on that. I think your declaration and your action could stand for future decisions of council. I don't think the council would need to change its ruling or your declaration on that. We're simply receiving information here that won't be materialistic of any benefit to you over the majority of the community. It's more of an outcome of a meeting with a user group, really.
Yeah, so if everyone's happy with me staying in the room, I'll just,
Councillors?
Well, I think it's on the council.
Yeah, agreed. Unless you were going to ask her to declare that in your next section. So did you have any more? Sorry, I don't have your email. Sorry, Councillor Rogers, so I'll come.
That's the only prescribed one, or do you want me to do the declared?
No, just prescribed. That's it. Thank you. Councillor Peter.
Yeah.
Mr Mayor, I discussed this yesterday with the CEO with regards to the possible mirror minute, so I haven't sent an email either, because I wasn't sure if that was going to be the mirror minute, but now that you've foreshadowed that this morning, I will declare a PCOI for the Harry Redford Cattle Drive mirror minute. And
Should that be forthcoming? I'm not 100% convinced I'll have that today, but if I do, that's noted.
if you do, I'll leave the room and let council discuss the,
On the basis of what?
I supply to the cattle drive.
Okay, thank you. So due to your ownership, partnership of Aramat Cut Price
Yes,
and its supplier relationship to the Harry Redford Cattle Drive, you will be declaring a PCI and leaving the room.
that's correct, Mr Mayor.
Do you have any others?
No, I don't think so.
Councillor, please.
No, Mr Mayor.
Councillor
Nothing I'm aware of, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Arthur.
Yes, Mr Mayor. Item 3.7.3, the Muttarborough Community Development Association proposal. The close associate of mine is a supplier of concrete in the region, and the construction, well, my understanding is the construction is to be undertaken or at least paid for by council. So the name of the close associate is Michael Woolman Transport. Nature of the relationship is that they are my employer, and I'll leave the meeting and stay away while that matter's discussed. And I'll flag Merrill Minute 3, I think you mentioned, Mr Mayor, the funding for the rec park because of, again, concrete and associated works through Michael Woolman Transport.
At the commencement of the Merrill Minutes section of the meeting, I will get you to reconfirm because we'll have them numbered at that point. But you're flagging them both now, councillor, so we'll reconfirm that at a later stage. Councillor Plum.
Not that I'm aware of, Mr Mayor.
Is any councillor present aware of any potential overlooked prescribed conflict of interest from any other councillor present? Okay, I call now for declarable conflicts of interest. Councillor Plum.
Not that I'm aware of, Mr Mayor.
No, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Hanson.
Aware of, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Gleeson.
Mr Mayor, item 3.6.2 and 3.6.3. 3.6.2, a member of my family has put in a tender for the Pinehill Reserve. 3.6.3.
Hold on that, councillor, because I actually overlooked that when I just called for.
Yeah, I've tried to.
That would actually be prescribed conflict of interest because she is they are immediate family members of yours, correct?
Yes.
With
So
your
that's
indulgence,
prescribed.
I think you perhaps might need. Yeah.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, I've got it
Probably have to get it.
flagged as a question mark too.
For yourself or for councillor Gleeson?
No, for Councillor Gleeson as a prescribed.
That's prescribed.
Because of the
close associate
relationship
being,
is that you're a close
immediate
associate,
family.
immediate family, so.
Sorry.
Same, yeah, so I'm sorry. It'll have practically the same bearing anyway. Are you intending to declare and leave?
Yes.
So I think realistically that one should sit in the PCOI column for you.
Yep.
So that's 362 only,
Yes.
due to the
So that's
nature of the relationship.
3.6.2, that it prescribes conflict of interest because a member of my family has put in a tender for that paddock. 3.6.3 would be a declarable.
On what basis,
I'm not
councillor?
really sure on what basis, to tell you the truth, Mr Mayor, because the Alpha Radio Association has asked for money, but the letter at the bottom of that was signed by a member of my family.
I'm happy if you declare. The thing is, the rule, as I got clarified from my end, but I'm pretty confident it's right, and I'm going to voice this anyway at the end, so I'll do it now. I'm also a member of the Alpha Radio Association, have been for 30 years, but I'm not an executive member, and nor is your daughter in that respect. However, if you are feeling uncomfortable that the request has been lodged by your daughter, as would normally be the case for a executive member of an association, we can probably determine that she's acting ex officio in that role. So I think it probably, in the interests of transparency, better that you do declare and leave. I'd support that.
I think it'd be, when you look at it, Mr Mayor, my daughter only wrote a backup letter. The actual people that asked for that are asking her is not her. But I feel as though that I should declare and leave room for 3.6.3. Again.
Councillor Peebles.
No, I think I'm right, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, so councillors, the only one that I potentially, councillor Rogers. Have you got any new declarables?
No new declarable, just the previous, the Lake Dunn Sculpture Trail, and it's mentioned in the progress report.
Yep.
This month. So as long as everyone's still happy with me participating, I acknowledge that they have to determine that. So.
Councillors, I'll reflag that I don't believe that I have a declarable conflict of interest in that request. Neither myself or any close associate of mine is an executive member of that committee. But I think the opportunity to voice a concern with that now, should you wish. Right. Does any councillor believe any other councillor present may have overlooked a declarable conflict of interest? Can I have somebody move that the minutes of the general meeting 17th January be received, please? Councillor Plum, seconded Councillor Hanson. Those in favour? 7-0. Questions, errors, alterations or omissions?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to be corrected, but can I just have it amended for a declaration of a prescribed conflict of interest with questions on notice? It's noted that I've left the room, but in the register of prescribed conflicts of interest.
Okay.
When Councillor Gleeson asked a question about Lensborough Highway.
Okay.
He did start off by saying that he didn't want me to leave the room, but
He doesn't get to say in that last,
that
it
was
may have been my
basically,
words at the
you're
time.
paraphrasing what you said, yes, Mr. Mayor.
For
4.1.1, the previous declared conflict of interest.
any further? Are councillors happy that that alteration be included in the formal minutes prior to confirmation? Can I have somebody then move that with the alteration? Councillor Gleeson, seconded. Councillor Peoples, those in favour? 7-0. Do any councillors or staff present have any petitions in the correct form? There being none, we move to reports. Can somebody please move the finance report be received? Councillor Peoples. Councillor Plum, seconded. Those in favour? 7-0. Had a bit on. Last week was busy. I think if I could talk to the two things that I haven't given substantial briefings on so far of the Reuse Recycle Committee and the Rural Fire Brigade presentation that I attended in Muttaburra, which was an excellent meeting. The Muttaburra Recycle Festival was discussed after a request for support was lodged to the last meeting, and we respectfully requested further information. I attended along with the District Manager for Aramac and Muttaburra, along with the CEO, a meeting with the organisers via the CWA, but also people that are heavily involved in that. That committee has indicated that they believe that to give the event the best chance of success, that it needs to go back 12 months to allow for adequate planning. And so the date is now no longer July 23, it's July 24. What they want to do to encourage local participation between now and that time is run a series of events, workshops predominantly, and they've approached the Men's Shed in Muttaburra for their support and have secured that. The Men's Shed are happy to work with them. For a couple of reasons. One, to look at the theming of the overall event, which I'll go to in a minute, but also to ensure that the structures that are completed are appropriate to be put on display in a public place, so that they're made out of appropriate materials, as mentioned in the correspondence, but also constructed in such a way that they're not going to fall apart, they're not going to require substantial maintenance, no painting and that sort of stuff. So there's also a strong desire for them to have heavy First Nations people involvement in the history and the history, both from a geography but also from a cultural heritage perspective, and to organise that appropriately and without crushing sensitivities will take them some time. I gave an undertaking that will follow up with Denise on that. They're definitely, in terms of the town involvement, very keen to see that, in terms of the overall design, they're keen for the circumference of the community inside the fence to have sculptures placed that tell a story chronologically of the settlement of the Muttaburra region. So commencing at the town grid on the Aramac Road, working clockwise from that point back to that point, will be blocked out sections for a sculpture that might be for the introduction of sheep and wool, or the First Nations involvement, or the cattle involvement in the region and so forth. So the various different, the Chinese involvement in the region was also mentioned. So you would do a walk of the town and pick up on the history of the region through the sculptures, or through the sculptured artwork. Those sculptures would appear over time, so attendees at the festival wouldn't have to conform to only the 1890s to the 1920s. They could build something that reflects any period of Muttaburra's history, and it would be placed in the appropriate place. Hence, over a number of festivals that the community will gradually fill in. In terms of the significant arcs of council, though, a lot more had been uncovered prior to, in terms of, for example, the watering systems. There is already watering points at each grid into town. There's already water run to those locations. So it would be a matter of just connecting those watering points to where the trees would be. There's certainly no intention at all, request or otherwise, for there to be anything other than trees. It's not garden beds, it's not maintenance, labour intensive type activities. They are, as a group, prepared to pay for, source all of the trees through local propagation, so trees will actually survive, but also come at no cost to council. And the area that will come at the most significant cost in terms of a watering system is from the Hewenden Road exit, or the Longridge Road, which is where you head, I guess. So the western exit to town, all the way through the northern point back around to the Aramac Road, because there's no grid on that side of town, there's no water past either of those locations, so we'd need a ring main or a connection from there forward. Also very, very sensitive as a group about probably not putting too many sculptures / trees in front of the Muttaburra Recreation Ground because of the existing use for that, for camping, big cattle trucks coming in there to unload, campcraft activities, that sort of thing. So they thought that would be something they'd work through over time. Maybe they might place some sculptures somewhere else at the rec grounds in consultation with the user group there. The idea would be to plant the trees in sort of clusters, clumps, rather than one all the way around, so that you can minimise the establishment costs for water, but also make a more shaded area. They're very keen to put that sheltered ring around the community just to provide some shade, cool the community, and the walkway to accompany that is a very basic, simple graded track with one, maybe two depressed areas or areas of depression that are currently a little bit foggy in this wet because there's a little bit of a drain. The predominant one of them is on the southeastern corner of the community, and all they're thinking is just a load or two of not blue material, some sort of red gravel through that area. Very low cost, very minimal stuff. So what I've said, given that they're obviously very keen as a community group, what their approach now is, if we see fit to support it, that we move during this year to grade the track, fix up that low-lying area, or put a bit of material there that makes it amenable to walk on, and put the watering systems in. They will then go to work on planting trees. Obviously it's too hot now and then too cold, so we've got months of time to lead into that, but they'd like that to be up and away before next year's July festival. And then of course, a decision to commit to the July festival would form part of our budget deliberations. It's actually outside that, but I did go through the machinations of a change in, local government, and I said it's probably better that we commit to that, because if they waited for the new council, it'd be too close to their event for marketing. So I said we could give that commitment and then be it on a new council's head to take it away once that commitment's given. We could even pay them if we needed to. So to give you more detail, and I was quite open about this, I've asked that group, through the CEO, I've asked that group to liaise directly with Paula and whoever else the CEO designates to work out the locations, the distance, the style of poly pipe, and work up accurate costings for what it's going to cost us to procure and install the watering systems, to grade the track and put a bit of gravel down. Before that comes back to council, I've said that once they indicate that, once we do the costings, we'll go back, the staff will go back to that user group and say, okay, your request is going to come to $25,000, which picking that figure wouldn't have a clue what it's going to come to. Just in case it's something that's too dear for them to see presented to council because they may not want it knocked off entirely. The district manager came up with a very good suggestion about maybe splitting the installation of the water into 2 years. Their preferred position is that we do it in one so they can get all of the trees established in one go. But Paula did mention to them that should it look very expensive, we may be able to break it into 2 financial years to do that for them. So very positive, very proactive. I will mention the 4 people that met with us, Jenny Gray, Winnie Batt, Paddy and Narelle. Honestly, just all the things that they were saying were exactly what we would like to hear. They don't want to create something that's going to have a high operational expenditure for us down the track. They don't want it outside the fence. They want it inside so that the roos don't come up and, make a mess all around the trees. They want the dripper systems to be done in a way that they, can water at night. So all really good stuff. It's not really anything we need to make a decision on today, just to warn you that there will be stuff coming, and you will possibly, if you're in and around Muttaburra, hear of ongoing conversations between our staff and them. That's not happening in that a decision has been made, it's just so that we can work up accurate costings. I think the most important bit to get right will be that northern section, because that's where the most expense will be in terms of installation of poly. There's other options down the track for watering points, as in human watering points, which the district manager rightfully identified we knocked out of last year's budget anyway. But what was identified there is keeping it cool, because of the temperature of that water, how we do that. But that's a future conversation, and also some seeding. Ultimately, what they're after is a beatification / physical exercise track that is decorated with history, promoting history in the paddock. That's effectively what they're after. Couldn't commend the group more highly. I was quite transparent about the meeting for those of them that hadn't already seen it, which I think a couple had, that we were sort of a bit on the fence, didn't know which way to go, and then I knocked it all out when I suggested to you that we go and meet with them. They agreed that that was a good option though, and I think it was all in all, Paula, CEO, Jane, very
Really
good
good.
meeting.
It was well welcome and good discussions, and come away feeling very positive about it.
Before I move on, because both of you are at it and you've referenced it in your own reports, have you got anything that you'd like to add?
No, it's a good
Just
meeting.
thank Paul for putting it all together for us.
Yeah, it was late in the afternoon on Monday, so thank you. Questions, councillors? Just on that for now. Okay. Last Monday I attended a meeting with the Rural Fire Brigades Association and the Assistant Commissioner, who is the Chief Fire Officer for the Rural Fires. Now just make the distinction there, the Rural Fire Brigades Association is the membership representative group that lobbies on behalf of tier firefighters. They're in no way sanctioned by government, but they work closely with government. And obviously the Assistant Commissioner of QFES, who is the Chief Rural Fires Officer, which is the first time we've had somebody in that position, and a number of her junior officers, including the Superintendent in charge of this region and the Regional Inspector. Paula also attended the back end of that meeting, or most of that meeting actually. You just missed morning tea, Paula, was the only thing that you missed out on there. But a number of issues were discussed. Some councillors present would have then attended a meeting here, similar stuff, but wouldn't have been as detailed perhaps as what we saw over in Muttaburra. You would have seen the equipment, no doubt. The Rural Fires Brigade Association have been able to secure the construction of large slip-on tanks and towable trailers to use as motherships for the small slip-on units that rural fire brigades use to fight fires. And should the state agree to purchase them on request, the purpose of the meeting was, would council agree to assist or facilitate in the location of them strategically throughout regional Queensland? And I volunteered immediately that we'd facilitate hosting 5 of them, and if we only got so many, well, we'd work out where we put them. You know, places like Muttaburra would be, it's a long way from anywhere. I also facilitated that we'd be happy if there was a fire to help transport them from wherever. Say we've got one in every depot, but there's a major fire in the area between here and Jericho, we'd be able to get them on council trucks and get them to the fire front, even if we then push them over onto primary producer vehicles. Or I then gave a further indication that when the regional inspectorate is returned to Barcaldine, that one of the first things I'd ask the CEO to do is to work closely with our fleet manager and that inspector to ensure that our tanks on our trucks, as they currently are suitably equipped to be able to be used for exactly the same purpose. I said that out here, the capacity of both contractor and council workforce water truck capacity is substantial, and if there was anything we could do to make our equipment more versatile, then I'm sure we as a council would do that. Now, you go a little bit out on a limb there, councillors, but in that we don't have a formal position on that, but we can always pull back at a budget time if we think it's too expensive. It won't be, it's a couple of fittings. The overarching thing is, will we help the Rural Fire Brigade in the siting of these larger slip-on tanks? And obviously, if a primary producer brigade comes to get them, they'll have to A, into one of our yards, and B, one of our staff will drive a forklift to load it onto their truck, that sort of thing. An operational issue, that side of it, but I'm sure in terms of supporting our rural primary producers that most of you would agree with that. It's a really positive step from the Rural Fire Brigade Department of QFES to institute that officer position in Barcaldine. That is coming. It probably isn't, there's no date on it yet, but the Assistant Commissioner and all of the staff there, where it's just a matter of the timing, and we will re-secure that Regional Inspector. There will also be a zone office based in Longreach. So we'll have our inspector for the region here, and the zone that will cover and yet to be determined, but basically from effectively Cloncurry to Roma. Pretty big area, will be based in Longreach, and then there'll be inspectorates like the Barcaldine based hub and spoke mentality off that. So instead of us, our rural fire brigade will be administered directly from Rockhampton via Emerald, it will be administered from Longreach via Barcaldine. Really positive steps. I think the overhaul that has resulted out of the Commission of Inquiry into fire in Queensland will be very positive for rural fire fighting operations, but probably even for emergency services, as we see most of that non-fire element shift back over to QPS and streamline that conversation for another day. There was substantial discussion around training and support for the rural fire brigades, and I gave an undertaking that we would assist in communication and distribution of support material via our various means, whether it be our office email lists, our Gazette piece, to help support the new inspector when they commission themselves in the region. really positive. Producer involvement at Muttaburra was excellent. A number of just producers, but also first officers and wardens and people with extreme, people like Ken who've been fighting fires for 50 years and could tell the guys in uniform they're more about fighting a fire than they all knew. It was a really positive, proactive meeting. Also mentioned Tyrell Spence, staff member, but also the leader of the Town Fire Brigade, which is a rural fire brigade in Muttaburra, for his work in hosting and facilitating the day. I know that there was a follow-up meeting here in the evening. I don't know if there was anything further discussed there, but we've got a good relationship established there, and I also thanked the Assistant Commissioner privately for the work that Mark Summers, who's one of her officers, did for us in the flooding event, ironically, when he was based here in Buckhorn with Shane. So some good connections built there within QFES. Shane, anything to add?
Councillor Plum, Councillor Elders and Councillor Rogers attended here. It was good discussions. Basically mirrored everything you talked about.
Councillor, I'm sorry, Paul, anything else from Muttaburra that I've overlooked from that meeting?
No, Mr Mayor, only that they requested that they be a part of the LDNG.
That's correct. They did, yes. The other thing, sorry, there was a very good long discussion, and councillors indulged me, but there was a long discussion about fighting fires around exclusion fences. Because as all the producers there said, some of these fences are 20 plus kilometres between gates, and there's the odd producer / cluster that would be very upset if the fence is cut. The unofficial position was, there was looked at, do we put indicators like Ergon do on fences and indicate where the gates are, but because most times when Ergon do that, there's a gate not far away. The bit of a consensus in the Muttaburra area is you just cut the fence and fight the fire, rather than getting someone lost. You save the grass and build the fence back later. Controversial, probably, but something in your broader discussions as councillors with rural constituents, it may not be something that every cluster / fenced property has considered, because we've built these things in the middle of a raging drought, most of them, if not all of them. It's pretty proactive conversation for firefighters to be having, and community leaders. So even if it's just socially having a chat, probably wouldn't hurt in your general conversations for fire brigade / producers to be considering A, what you do in the event of a fire, but B, if the fire's been in and around your area, the need post battling it to very quickly get to the perimeter and get these fences back restored if you want to maintain the integrity of your cluster. So that was just a little take out that I thought was an interest. It took about 20 minutes for them to all, and then, it will vary across the region, but probably a conversation worth propagating if and when you get the chance. Councillor Plum, you were about to ask a question?
Just one of the, probably the major things came out, I thought, was housing, trying to find housing for people that they're going to put in here in Buckley.
They did use that as a bit of an excuse for me when they first started, but I said it's not founded in reality that there's housing available, even government housing available, should they push hard enough for it. I think it's a quick go-to for government departments. Oh, we'd love to send someone to you, but there's no housing. It's not true.
Yeah, we tried to explain.
Put it this way, if it doesn't happen promptly and that's the excuse that continues to get used, I will push back harder, because there's houses available. It's just a matter of A, paying for them, and B, asking.
Yeah.
Plus, Mr Mayor, it excludes the local population in their vision of someone for that position.
Which was very, very clearly pointed out to them that the region did not want a firefighter coming here to stamp their passport for higher honours within QFES. They wanted somebody who understood the nature of fire in this region, which could be challenging to find, but not necessarily impossible to find a local who could fit that role as a regional fire inspector.
And not even just current locals, like people with extended family or connections, or locals that have moved away and maybe worked in that space to come back and have access to housing or accommodation in some way.
George Street is not the only home of good rural firefighters.
Mr Mayor, did they, speaking of the fair fencing and all that you just spoke about, did the producers realise that maybe a little bit of maintenance on their side sort of to clear the debris from the fences, you know, like,
You was talked about.
you know.
More what they were talking about wasn't a fire caused by the fence, it was that you get to a fence and you've got a fire 20 kilometres in front of you that you've got to get to. It was more about gaining access rather than, but there was brief discussion around the need to install fire breaks either side and that sort of stuff.
I mean, sometimes you get to a fence and the fire's behind you, pushing you into the fence too, so you've got no option there.
We did talk about the threat to life of trying to find a gate rather than just cutting it. Councillor Rogers, did you have anything that you'd like to add from the meeting here in Barcaldine with QFES?
Nothing to add, it was just a very interesting and, great news, like, meeting really to, if we can get all those units in our region to help out. And, nothing really to add, Sean.
All right.
Mr. Mayor.
You're away from the chamber today. There's probably a lot more there, but I think it would be better if I threw it open to the room and I can close off at the end of the report. Any questions, General? Councillor Peebles.
Mr Mayor, beef corridors.
Yep.
What makes a beef corridor and who picks them and how do they come about?
Oh, so that was the QBCDC that we funded and started. So that's Central Highlands, Isaacs, ourselves, Gladstone, Banana and Rockhampton Regional Councils formed the group to lobby for the sealing of the roads that predominantly supported the beef industry within those boundaries, and we secured the $400 million in federal funding, and we're continuing to lobby the state now to match that so that we can start the sealing of those roads. So, yeah.
Sorry. So beef corridors are sort of going to sale yards or meat works or what's the criteria?
Yeah, so they had to be state-owned roads that were, and it was data-based, so the NLIS system in Australia can track the movement of cattle along various supply routes, and it goes to heat points such as either sale yards or meatworks or feedlots are the three predominant ones. There used to be a rail network in Australia for cattle, but obviously that's fallen into disrepair, so that doesn't count. But the three heat points were that, and so the corridors concept was formed on let's identify the roads, the unsealed roads that large numbers of cattle are moving on, use the evidence-based approach to secure federal and state support. We thought it had come in the reverse order. We thought we'd get the state across the line and not the feds. However, the federal election timing was what interfered, and so we got the commitment out of both sides of the federal parliament, and we're just seeking the state. So that's the commitment that would see in our patch Claremont Alpha, Tambo, Tambo Springshaw, and then those roads that continue to head into the feedlots and meatworks to the east.
And what about the Ilfracombe Road in the sale yard?
There was more heat on local government roads than there were on the Ilfracombe Longridge Road, because
Did it come up?
didn't even factor in the top, wasn't even on the list of roads for the movement of cattle, it just didn't feature.
Was there any investigation into the road, or it just didn't?
No, we just picked the roads that had the evidence to support them. We didn't, like if there was no evidence to support them, they just didn't get leveraged. We had nothing to leverage from them, put it that way. There was a couple of councils that put local government roads on, Gladstone for one, because the connector to the Port of Gladstone for live export from holding yards is a local government road, but by and large the large regional councils out here we couldn't justify putting the local government roads or roads that didn't have evidence to support why they were there in there. Just see that the thing that makes it these the through, like the Claremont Alpha Tambo Road is the through road to Roma or the Port of Townsville. That's where the vast numbers of cattle come from through there. It's transient stock moving through using a road, not locals. It's the transient, the big numbers of cattle that get the support for those roads. Kilcum and Diamond Downs was another one. cattle moving into the Thomas Borthwick's abattoirs in Mackay, shortcutting through behind the mining areas. Apes Creek,
So it's mainly all east of us.
yeah, pretty well. Because that's where the cattle are. And that was the underwriting, defining group for the group was the beef industry as opposed to the mining industry, which gets everything. Had got everything up until that point. We had a discussion yesterday with the showground user groups. I don't think there's anything further to add there, but the Resource Council's meeting with the Director General of State Development, that will be followed up with a meeting in 2 weeks with the Director General of the Transport and Main Roads around conditionalisation and utilisation of local government roads for the establishment of renewable energy projects. It's been problematic in some areas, potentially even including us. So part of one of the outcomes of the DG's meeting was how we can get local government to the table to discuss and be a part of the decision making around renewable energy projects. There's hopefully some benefit for us coming out of that, because most of the access location for our renewable energy project is on local government control, right? So. Any more questions?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just the letter of support for administration position at the Alpha Police Station. Are they just looking at employing someone locally?
A QGAP office is what they're seeking. They've got hours within the region. They're one of the few police stations that has to undertake in the Long Ridge Patrol Group. There's others, but they have proactively sought that out because they do driver licence testing. They're a magistrates court, vehicle renewals, all of those sort of functions, and it's a significant draw on their time for other policing matters. So the inspector and the officer in charge there have been working for some time, and that's the second time I've actually sent a letter of support. It's the second request. They're not back the first time. There's a couple of QGAP officers in Queensland that are not utilising their full, through staffing issues, ironically, can't utilise the full hours they have allocated to them. So they've sought the Long Ridge Patrol Group's looking to draw a few of those hours into our pay. It's on request, yeah. I'm just obviously supportive of it. Aramark undertakes driver licensing, do they?
No, they used to, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, they always used to.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe this is something that when rolled out, although there is obviously, we do a few of the government agencies, is done by our office is supported by our office, but maybe if we get one foot in the door, we might be able to see this rolled out. I'm not sure the hours, they didn't mention the hours a week, it's not a full-time position, but it might be a permanent part-time.
Yeah. Another job. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Rogers, did you have any questions for my report?
No, Mr. Mayor, I don't.
All right. CEO's information report. Can I have somebody please move? Would that be received? Councillor Peoples, seconded Councillor Gleeson. Those in favour? Carried, 7-0. Good.
Councillors, yeah, a lot of this was some duplication with the Mayor, but the first part is I'd like to give a warm welcome to our new Director of Corporate Planning Services, Dan Bradford. First general meeting, so Dan's been on board for 3 weeks now. Hit the ground running, so very pleased to have Dan here as an exec for the team. Hasn't been a dull moment in the first 3 weeks he's been here. Dan's been out and about, experienced a lot, so I think on behalf of all the staff, we'd like to welcome here, and I'm sure councillors are happy that you're here too, mate. In the report, we can tell you it's sort of been read, but the highlights are obviously the certified agreement got approved and implemented, with staff paid and back paid. We've got, which I mentioned last time, a comprehensive road valuation with condition assessments been out to market. That closes this week, so we should have that one ready to go. The one that I thought was worth mentioning was the Australia Day, the work that our district managers and staff did, and councillors for the accompaniment to Muttaburra, Aramac, Alpha and to here was a great show of support. Of special note was Councillor Gleeson did challenge the Sangoanas to a tug of war.
So I wondered whose idea this was.
It was his. So based on their form, the Alpha Brumbies should be firming as favourites because our team of councillors almost beat the Goannas in the tug of war.
Was there a noticeable absentee from that competition, Theo?
It was rumoured that obviously the linchpin of the team went missing when the pressure was on, but he did return at the end.
I apologise, Mr Mayor, I was uncontacted.
Very good.
There's a black spot.
The Goannas were losing when we thought that would be quite difficult when we all accidentally let go of the run. But I think from a council perspective, Aramac put on a really good night of lawn bowls. Paula and the staff out there all attended and it was a good event. We had a bus trip out with Councillor Plum and Councillor Hanson and we experienced the bus in its glory, which was good, and Councillor Rogers as well. So it was really good. And we have had a meeting with CWAC with some support. They came over just to catch up with me on that one. We obviously talk about the sculpture trail. We didn't mention DAF in yours, but we did have a meeting with DAF, which I'm happy for you to discuss that one yourself.
Yes, we had a very good meeting with the Department of Agriculture regarding the recent flooding event and the lack of accurate Bureau rain recordings, because if you look at the BOM rain map, it doesn't show the volume of rain anywhere near where it was. QDAF have put together some very good mapping, extremely good mapping that we will now start the process they've got for that. We'll see, and they'll be able to roll out in more like real time for us, which will be good from a local disaster management point of view and even road thinking about infrastructure impacts. What they use is obviously the Bureau can only work on there's not very many, you know, I've got one, there's a few others that are official Bureau rain gauges, whereas every property's got one. And so QDAF now through our reporting, but also literally through Facebook, you know, through the Who Got the Rain type websites, can very quickly build a pattern of how much rain's fallen and where, as people report that, as I say, almost in real time. So their mapping was very good and their willingness to share that with us in real time, not to replace the BOM, but to supplement what we get from the BOM. They also were very keen to work with us in terms of reconstruction. And they were, so that they don't, we undertook a first of literally bringing every property in a predefined area that we thought could be adversely affected. DAF are very keen to piggyback with that so that they're not, people that are getting flooded are not getting 3 or 4 government agencies and departments all ringing them. If we're going to do that, they're happy to add a couple of questions, or if we're already answering the questions, DAF has got an online form that can be filled out by a disaster affected producer. We can, if we're asking those questions, we can propagate that straight into their database. Now, I know the first thing everyone thinks there is, oh, we're just doing another government agent's dirty work for them. Not really, because we need to talk to them about the humanitarian side of what's going wrong. Do they need food or, you know, fuel for a generator, that sort of stuff, emergency evac, whatever. And if we can ask a couple of simple questions, you know, in that form, it'll give us a very good picture of the breadth of flooding and its impact on the local economy. So we've given an undertaking that we're going to work with Lou on that and see if we have another disaster that measures comparable to that, what we've got, we'll go into that.
Yeah, exactly what the Mayor said. It was very good. Lou and their information was great as an overlay where we can all share that to help us in disaster times. As you'll see, organisationally, and we discussed it briefly yesterday, we've already commenced a review of the org and how the structure looks and how we're rolling through, and consultation with staff has commenced, as we discussed with council. The JCC, which we call it, the Consultative Committee, is staff, senior staff. So we're working together. We re-established that committee. It's sort of fallen by the wayside, so we've got it back on track with meetings happening regularly. The big one there is, and we've discussed it before, all our staff from directors right through staff. We're reviewing everyone's position descriptions. We've started staff reviews, performance reviews, so that's happening now, which will feed into our structure. We have undertaken a payroll audit just to make sure how we're performing in that space. The other highlight was our staff from supervisors through to senior management have started some leadership training, which happened last week. So I'm not sure, we've got a few in the room, so I'm sure they can share over Smoko the experience in that, but I found it very positive and it was a good team building exercise as well. The big one for us is our IT and records management, where the new director and myself are now ready to work through the cyber and the IT report. It's a 59-page roadmap out, which will inform council once we've come to that timeline, which is very soon. We obviously have the workplace health and safety, which you'll see there wasn't a report now. We have had those staff leave. We're re-looking at that entire reporting regime and our safety on ground to provide a more comprehensive report that goes right through from policy to procedures right down to plant and equipment. As we identify plant and equipment that needs to be looked at closer, that's what we're doing at the moment. Other than that, we've started planning, which we were part of yesterday, our budget, our reviews and operations. We're looking to present to council a lot more detailed data. While it appears like we're on the surface like a duck with legs paddling quite quickly, but I think from a council perspective, we'll start providing more detail, which helps in our decision making. Based on that, I think for heaps of questions, or none.
Councillor Rogers?
I didn't really have any questions, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Peoples?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Councillor Gleeson? Councillor Hanson? Good, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Hart?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, on the health and safety front, there's 2 positions advertised on Seek.
Yeah.
They're for us, aren't they?
Yes.
For council, yeah, okay. That's right.
I guess what I should talk about, we've had a lot of adverts out there for staff from tradies, labourers, a lot of vacancies. And sadly, at the moment, Queensland Whitehorse, nationwide, there's an absolute shortage. So I think we've got something like 14 adverts out at the moment. With, the interest isn't as strong as we would hope, but we're looking at those markets where we can get some interest.
And is that in part why we've gone through, it's advertised through logo appointments?
What we're trying to do is target the areas where we believe that the personnel would be, so where Seek is appropriate or a company, but we want to get good bang for buck, so where we believe that the opportunity is. We have tried in the past other avenues as well, which didn't have success, so we've re-advertised in new areas.
Councillor?
Mr. Mayor,
Thank you.
can I just sort of ask an off-the-cuff question about the interest in the Longreach Pastoral College in saying that, becoming a training centre? Are they looking at becoming a training centre so that we can help us with these?
Jointly, we could
You go first.
Sorry, I'm just thinking of trying to get these young people and get them trained out here so that they'll stay here for these positions, and I'm wondering what's happening then.
I can tell about the college.
Yeah, I'd like to refer that one.
Okay, no, it's all right.
So the college application, there's 3 that I'm aware of, formal applications to acquire the college and its associated property. The state have given people the option of applying for a segment of the college. There's 6 different options, or 6 different options of either in totality or in isolation. 2 of the 3 have got a very positive focus to external training opportunities. One is predominantly internal needs, whereas there are 2 that are planning to partner with a variety of RTOs, registered training organisations, to provide region-specific training. Now, what that looks like obviously isn't publicly available. I'm not keeping it confidential, I just don't know, but I would think that wouldn't only be rural-based training, like rural industry-based training. There'd be a degree of that, but it's a bit early to tell really what could happen. A completely commercial operation could buy that entire facility, turn it into a hay baling, making no training. It's literally in the lap of the gods what could happen. Or more specifically, the Queensland government.
From our perspective with training though, we're looking at, we need training for our staff as well. For our tickets, our licences, we're looking where we can to source locally, so the Rapid group is a very good choice for us to use, but they can't offer everything we need for our own staff. So that's part of the reason of looking around. Where I can bring training in-house, it's a better cost for us. And that's what we're currently looking at different options.
Rapid skilling is not the panacea for all illnesses, unfortunately, and in terms of delivering cost-effective training to us that's available for free elsewhere, it's struggling at the moment. Councillor Hicks.
Just through you, Mr. Mayor, in discussing, you and I actually touched on yesterday about contacting local business, maybe to sort of join with counselling and training so we can get a trainer out here and we can get the numbers through other businesses as well, so cut some costs a little bit.
Yeah, we're currently, especially when it comes to plant tickets and operations and VOCs, our plant fleet coordinators looking very broadly at where we can bring it in and anyone can join in and it's all valuable.
Councillor Hanson, we were even talking about things as simple as first aid certificates, like how many businesses in town individually procure a first aid officer, training officer, like, you know, there's at least 4 government departments alongside ourselves. We could, you know, perhaps share in that arrangement to try and facilitate.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I've done an LDR and a CPR update in Emerald. I had to drive down on Tuesday and back on the Wednesday. There was only 2 of us in the course of Emerald. Because I couldn't get that course available anywhere around here at the time. So yeah, there's an opportunity to get other business to actually come in with us and sort of cut those costs down a fair bit.
We're looking at every option we can to get training for our staff.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, does that feedback go back to Rapid about rapid training? Like,
I was only made aware of it last week. It definitely will.
I would have
Or it
thought
has.
that their training would be tailored to Rapid area local government authorities.
Some of the training's tailored there, but the cost benefit for it's not. So
So do they not get funding to, like, the CSQ funding?
no, that's specific.
Is that because of the makeup
You pick that
of
one.
their
Yeah, you
organisation?
pick that one particular in one.
Oh, well, because I undertake.
No, it's ironic. It's ironic because we had a discussion with
behind the
this.
scenes right now.
Rapid skilling can't deliver the 3 free tickets per construction worker per year that the Queensland government funds. No, they can't.
But is that a physical thing or legally
I'll show
because
you.
of how they're set up as an organisation?
Uh,
Or is that a
I'm
question of
hearing,
mine?
I don't know how to answer because we think that it's just because they're not set up right,
Right, okay.
not because they can't. There's some, I've seen correspondence that says, oh, they're a registered training organisation operated by local government, the only one in the state, and that just, I don't buy that. At face value, I don't buy that.
Yeah.
There's got to be another reason why they can't deliver
Yeah.
something the Queensland government has said you can have for free. It just,
Yeah.
commercial operation in Emerald can provide it for free, yet a registered training organisation that's owned by local government, wouldn't matter who owns it. It's not actually owned by local government, it's the other thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I don't believe that advice from that officer, because, or I have trouble understanding and believing that advice. I've got to be very careful, usually I get in trouble, but the reality is local government does not own it. Rapid is a company limited by guarantee, and yes, the shareholders of that are local government, but it's not like the Longreach Regional Council or Barcaldine Regional Council directly own, control and operate Rapid
It's not a
Skilling.
commercial
So,
operation of
that's right, and we-
directly and solely.
Rapid Skilling delivers all manner of commercially available training. It's 3 subsidised arrangements, just not the CSQ stuff. So, yeah, I'm waiting for further
Yeah,
advice on that.
yeah. It is probably complicated and convoluted, or it's.
But it shouldn't be, really,
No.
should it? You know, like they're the only RTO in Western Queensland that can deliver that stuff. They can deliver all of the tickets that we need in that space, but can they deliver it for free? Well, the advice I've got at the
Well,
moment.
free to us, but they get paid for it, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Well, what I'm hearing at the moment is they can't, but I want to clarify why before I get too further out on a branch and someone cuts it off behind me.
If we can get it all sorted, that helps every other council out here too.
That's only if they're duly trained in chainsaw use, Mr Mayor.
Someone use it anyway.
Alright, we can move on.
We want trucks.
Any more questions? Yeah, I mean, that's the point that the CEO makes there is the valid one. We have limited personnel available to us, so we need the few that we do have, either in a draw pool or currently employed, to be as trained, to be as versatile as either A, we need them to be, or B, they're prepared to be. And that's not always the same thing, I accept that. But if we've got people who might be predominantly employed in one position, but have got the necessary qualifications to backfill in another position, it might be a yellow plant operator that's got a heavy vehicle licence, for example. Could be if we can deliver that training free of charge in their immediate locality, it can provide us with a much more versatile workforce.
It helps with opportunity, helps with succession, helps with career progression. I'd like to offer that in elsewhere we can.
Further questions? Can I have somebody move that we receive the councillor information correspondence, please? Agenda item 332. Councillor Arthur, Councillor Hanson seconds. Those in favour? 7-0.
Every councillors, just what we've received. Councillors would have read it all.
Any questions on any of that, or comment on any of that correspondence?
Exciting one for me is the Mobarosaurus.
Right. 333, can I have somebody move the planning and development report be received, please?
Councillors, the tables there on what we're doing, even the construction summaries there that Councillor Arthur's been looking for. Generally, pretty straightforward application.
Questions?
I'll move it, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Second to Councillor Gleeson, those in favour? Any questions? 7-0. Comments? 334, the economic development report. Can I have somebody move that be received, please? Councillor Plum, second to Councillor Hanson, those in favour? You're in favour? Councillor Rogers, yep, thank you. 7-0.
That one's pretty straightforward from all what's been happening. I guess there's more questions that the Pres is the discussion on the Pres, we've sort of talked about that with the Mayor's report. So we'll follow up on getting that sorted.
SARA have completed their state assessment. It's now just waiting for conditional approval. It'll come to us imminently. Yeah, the final decision from SARA was released last week. The funding announcement is in front of the appropriate committee at a state level for decision. I literally don't know more than that, whether the camera's rolling or not. All I know is that the DA issues that have been identified by SARA have been addressed, modified and addressed. I believe the proponent is comfortable with that, and the decision to fund it is being made as we speak. No time frame on that.
It's just a waiting game, basically.
And we have another request to meet with the truck stop developer. We haven't yet confirmed that.
Confirm when.
Australia Day Awards, can I have somebody please move that council acknowledge and congratulates the recipients of the Australia Day Awards? Councillor Plum. Councillor Peoples. Any comment? I'm looking. Okay, those in favour? 7-0.
Mr Mayor, does Councillor Gleeson have issued it, or is it just?
Oh, no, not really. I can't see that there's a,
No,
It's just recognition.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, I didn't really, well, yeah.
all right.
I didn't put that.
336, general discussion here first. Nothing about this is that we're permanently changing any part of our uniform other than to provide, I think the option here is for an option, exactly that, for special occasions or to give to various people as gifts. A number of the prominent, up until recently, predominantly female state and federal politicians have been able to wear a clothing line that's been developed and built here in the West and in the Central West. All artists that are very Indigenous artists that are local, some to specifically Barcaldine, but definitely all within the Central West region. The idea is that it could give staff an option to wear as a Friday shirt or a shirt for formal occasions. So, Shane, anything about it?
No, I think the designs, Deb's got, I don't know whether we've got them up on the screen whether you want to see them or not, but the additional to that is having a formal uniform type where it's wearing a tie and jacket, so we're very proud of the area and the landline.
And that could be utilising existing. So there's the option. They do now have they have a range of shirts that are just made directly out of their material. But the option that Shane's talking about for formal would be if we could get one made that might be a white shirt with a collar or something made from, or a tie that might be made from that fabric, or something that might not be the whole shirt made from that, but it has patches or swathes of the Indigenous produced artwork.
What have you got in there?
I've got some examples.
This is the local designers that we can order now, and we've asked them on the decision from council to then design that more formal one that's specific for our council. But yes, I have the ones that.
This would be slightly different to the to what we're proposing here. In that this would be a custom. What we're proposing here is that we do a custom design for us. This, however, we're going to have just incorporated into our, what you're looking at right now, will just be incorporated into our logo branded uniforms for you to choose as an option should you wish. Councillor.
Are we going to have a Matabarosaurus or emblem on there somewhere?
We'll later in the process, once that's officially enacted by the Queensland Parliament, we're going to have a broad conversation about the entirety of our logo and branding, the whole lot, call the whole lot into question. So it may be a standalone little thing, or it might be incorporating that more broadly in our actual logo, or a variety of both. Yes.
Yeah, I thought it might be nice just to have something on the collar.
That will happen even on these shirts potentially if we rebrand.
What's that? What did you say?
It's incorporating the Matabarosaurus now that it's the Queensland fossilised emblem in some way, or some recognition of that perhaps in some of our corporate logoing. It's a request during community consultation from the Matabarosaurus to look at whether council would investigate that, and we just haven't had time to do it, but once it's officially in place we'll have a council workshop about branding and whether we can, stick it on some of our cars, or and indeed looking at the whole relevance of our logo, our symbolism, the whole lot. Wouldn't be exclusively as part of this process, it'd be a separate discussion altogether. This is just whatever our logo is would go on these. And then if we decide to support doing something with the Matabarosaurus, will that be done futuristically? Separate, yeah. Slightly different, same but different.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, do we, for this special occasion, the clothing, do we not give a direction but give a scope to use like these corporate colours or anything like that, or is it wholly and solely up to the artist? Or do they then mock up half a dozen designs and then that comes back?
That's the plan.
Is probably the first question.
The first question is they'll bring some thoughts
Yeah.
back to us to choose from.
Okay. Yep. And secondly, is it possible, mind you, it's probably difficult, high-vis stuff for outside staff, is that, as in, like,
It
Can we
go
put on
collars or sleeves.
as opposed to half sections or whatever, but, because I know there are some manufacturers of high-vis stuff that do a little bit of.
We'll have to get back to our supplier.
Yeah, yeah,
See what they can incorporate our local colours. It's definitely what other councils have done.
yeah, yeah.
Not a drama, it's a good idea.
Do we need to then change that, because it does only say for inside staff to work? Or should we just say for staff to work?
We could probably,
Oh, well, the Red Ridge is probably,
It's more
yeah, it's
informal there.
inside, sorry, yeah.
but there's no reason why outside staff can't have one of these shirts to wear to a function if they're called to it.
They're good designs, that's,
They're not supposed to wear them anywhere but work, but
yeah, with the logo on them, sort of limits because of our uniform policy.
we could just put 4 staff there perhaps. And that's interpretable depending on the design then, if it's, perhaps take the word all out. Who had their hand up, sorry? Councillor Gleeson.
Mr Mayor, have we got to, as the council, got to enter into a formal contract is to purchase from Red Ridge? That's what's the end result?
That would be after we approve the design.
Be a procurement process.
We'll have to do that. That's probably too far down the track yet, because we haven't yet really approved that the design that comes back is suitable.
This is for intent to cover things, so.
Can't start with, we're comfortable to at least start the exploration now. These shirts, council can just procure like we do now. The ones that are in front of you, same as we do these from, I don't know, where do we get these from, Peter Taylor's Menswear or someone?
Emerald.
Yeah, like, we just procure uniform shirts now from a supplier, the same as these would become, so. At the moment, we're a bit limited in some of our gifts for dignitaries, but something that's designed by local Indigenous artists to the council area would be a unique gift. We're limited a bit. Yeah. Councillor Rogers, have you got any comment?
Mr Mayor, I agree with Dan that it'd be great if we could incorporate the design to a high-vis, like, similar to what they've done with the mental health shirts, the conversation starters. I've seen them out in workplaces and they're in the mine sites. So if we can like incorporate all the staff, it would be great. The other thing is like, I guess at the moment there's no even approximate like idea of how much it would cost, because yeah, it's a non-budgeted item, but I guess we'd have to wait until after the designs and everything was done before we found out what the reasonable cost would be.
I think that'd probably be part of that next step, Councillor Rogers. They come back with designs and this design's going to cost this much, this design's going to cost this much. You'll have this many shirts will cost you that much, this many, a run of shirts of this order if you order. If you only place an order periodically, so part of that costings conversation will come back with the options for designs.
Yes, also just want to apologise to Councillor Arthur for using his first name.
That's all right, Councillor Rogers.
It's right, Councillor Rogers, I thought you were talking to Dan from the other side.
I wonder if instead of the range to be ordered from Red Ridge, it read also a range to be designed. Oh, I just realised something. I'm a director of Red Ridge, so I have to declare a prescribed conflict of interest and leave the room. Sorry. Oh, well, not prescribed, but it's declared because it's a non-paid directorships. But either way, I'm out. Sorry. Councillor Plum.
Morning.
Councillor Plum.
Need to pass a resolution that Councillor Plum steps in.
That's up to you five to do that.
You can do it before you go. Councillor Peoples.
We're coming back.
No. Oh, I need to just get my phone.
You can probably move it there and get it to vote on before you go.
No, we've already started discussion on it, so I'm out.
Well, through whomever, with the
So the
protocol.
move, yeah, we need a resolution to move.
Well, but in the absence of the mayor, and I know we have technical difficulties.
Well, the deputy
Wouldn't
mayor
it
can move it.
default? Yeah, that's what I was getting to.
Sorry, now I missed what you
So Councillor Rogers, can you move that Councillor Plum
I can,
chairs the
yeah.
meeting?
Can I move, that councillor Plum is deputises this while the mayor is out of the room?
Chair the meeting.
So we have a second?
All those in favour? I can't see what everyone's doing in there, but, yeah, so councillor Plum, would like to take over?
Discussion. Discussion.
Sorry, Councillor Plum?
Discussion on this resolution?
Would you like it to be reworded?
I think, yeah, Councillor Dillon was of the opinion that the wording needed to change because it does say also arrange to be ordered
From Red Ridge. So
to be.
Red Ridge is our local supplier, and they're the hardest because it's local.
Can I just clarify, so there's two separate things. We need the local Indigenous artists to design the artwork for that, that executive level. What you've got, and the second sentence there is for that decision around the current local artists and what is available to be purchased now, and it's that range that's available now for purchase from Red Ridge.
I suggest we change order to procure.
Or enter into a supply arrangement.
And
Because unless the order gives a connotation that we are going to order
It's a given.
or X amount of A, B, C.
so really, don't we want to have some sort of designs come back to us with a costing for us to make a decision to move forward? Yeah.
So should we put that in that we want?
Because I understand that those three designs are available now.
Yeah.
That would be,
We can still use it.
that talks to the second point that Barcaldine Regional Council would be applied or embossed, embroidered on those shirts.
Yeah.
So that's the current range for the second part of that resolution.
It's the only, we've got to ask the artists whether or not we can put our logo on their shirts. I'm not aware of this sort of.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the arrangement requirements.
So,
We reread it.
so we make it A and B, so A and B.
Yep.
They'll
part
suit
of it.
it. Part A
Sentence
is
go at the end, Debbie.
that we, and that we view designs on the artist, and then
I understand everybody, it's just that it's so slow that it's not doing it up there.
Yeah, it just popped in then to us.
we
The current range is available now, isn't it? So it's-
Yes.
So, is everyone happy with that, or do they want to alter it, or?
It's saying we're going to source. We're just chasing costings at this stage, aren't we?
Yes.
So I
The
think-
first one is to get prices for business attire.
And then B is to formalise the arrangement that we have with Red
There
Ridge.
is current.
Source of local Indigenous artists to design artwork and costing suitable, no, you just need to put, we're just chasing prices at this stage.
Just put artwork in costing suitable for a range of clothing.
Yeah.
Is everyone happy with that, or?
Does the second one make enough sense? It's currently available, isn't it? Okay, that's what you can now just buy off the shelf. Was it current or existing or available?
Well, I would be more comfortable with wording around like enter into an agreement with Red Ridge for the supply of BRC branded, or their current range to be BRC branded. But I'm just trying to think how that should be worded better.
Could we put in there the current range as put in front of us here?
Have we previously discussed this as a council?
No,
It's always just been there as an idea.
Just that council, it'd be just council enter into agreement with Red Ridge
For the procurement?
for the possible procurement of apparel or something. Yeah?
For the procurement of, I would say, Barcaldine Regional Council branded Red Ridge range or something.
I'll read it through a couple of times too. So we know Red Ridge is a local artist, so it's a local Barcaldine Regional Council artist that we want to be wearing promoting
Yeah.
gear.
And then, yeah, I would probably put that bracketed bit designed by local artists. For, yeah, words to that effect.
And that takes over for B, that's not.
Yeah.
Okay, so A is source of local Indigenous artists to design artwork and costings suitable for a range of clothing to be used for special occasions by executive councillors and to be given as gifts through dignitaries. Indeed.
If we're going to have formal shirts that are probably, is it just executive, or are we happy for all staff to wear it? That'll be managers. We're talking about
Well,
like
if they are a
business
gift to a dignitary, I would probably be in the position that they are separate and different because they're a little bit special to give to a dignitary. And then to have, or maybe depending on the designs, we allocate some for dignitaries and some to go, whether it be through Red Ridge for that corporate clothing.
you just want to change it, used for staff special occasions.
Yes. Yeah, and then.
Because it could be a broad range. We don't know what it will be yet.
And so our artists, we're expecting our artists to give us all the costings.
We design a range.
Yeah.
Through.
Yeah. So we would then, yeah, okay. Right.
My suggestion is we have it used for staff, councillors,
Yeah.
and special occasions.
Yeah.
So
And I guess that allows, yes,
a range.
yeah, we can separate for everyone to have, or for special.
It could be what the shirts we're wearing now, it could be an official one of the meetings.
Yeah.
And after councillors put any special occasions. Oh, special occasions, sorry, this is special occasions by staff.
I know it's picky, but should we put and or to be given as gifts for dignitaries?
At the end of the day, until we get arranged, we can't make decisions.
So, how is it happening now? Everyone happy with that?
Mover and a seconder,
Yeah.
please.
So can I have someone move that the above resolution is as is? So move, councillor Henson, second councillor R.
I'll move it. Councillor Plum.
And second, councillor R. All in favour?
Councillor Plum, can I move an amendment? No, I'm only joking, Councillor Plum.
Sorry.
Just a vote, please.
In favour? Yeah, that's six.
Councillor Plum, you're still the chair until removed.
Back in. You can invite the mayor back in.
Or you could break the smoke out.
And yeah,
We could break.
Yeah, you're
Let's
in
break
charge.
the smoker.
meeting's adjourned at 10:01.
Jolly good.
Just
We've got this.
Button thing, Mr. CEO?
Which one?
I have no idea.
Top one? Sorry, councillor Rogers, we're just stalling for a moment. Time for Smogo.
Yeah, I was just wondering, are we adjourned for something or it's just for a moment?
Just for Smogo.
What do you think?